Welcome, travelers, to the Tales from the Enchanted Forest podcast with your hosts, Fox and Sparrow.
Greetings, Fox, and greetings, travelers. It is so good to be back and checking out another proper tale here in the Enchanted Forest.
Yes, and as always, we have to start with the weather. It is so hot in England at the moment. It's humid, it's sticky, the sun is just hovering over the UK, I believe. So I am not enjoying it, but I also didn't enjoy last week where it was just gloomy and raining and hail. So if the UK could figure out what kind of weather it would like, that would be fantastic.
Meanwhile, here in Canada was raining all weekend, which I enjoyed because I'm an indoorsy person. I was like, I'm just gonna be cozy up inside with my activities.
Well, last week it was like that a little bit. We never got proper rain, but I have been enjoying reading, sometimes in the sun, sometimes in the shade, sometimes inside by the fan. So that's been nice. And the story we're telling today was inspired because we did receive a copy of an advanced reader's copy of Sámi Folktales from the Near and Far Worlds. And this was originally collected by Knud Qvigstad, and I know I'm butchering these names. I'm so sorry. I looked up so many different videos and I couldn't find anyone saying it. And Isak Saba, and they're translated by Barbara Sjoholm. This was published just yesterday through the University of Minnesota Press, and so this is brand new information. It's not brand new information, but obviously with works that are in their original language, they aren't accessible really to a wider audience. Until they get translated to English. And while we do lose some of the nuances, I do appreciate all the translators that do this work because it means that we can have access to so many more folk tales and fairy tales, and we can actually really understand a people's culture and identity through the stories they tell. Especially Sjoholm, she has so many stories and translations, and this is just one of her books in a long line of work that she's done on the Sámi people. So very, very grateful to people like her who are translating works, and the work that translators do is as important as the people who are actually collecting the stories.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so the Sámi people are an indigenous group in Europe, mainly Scandinavian. And unfortunately, like most other indigenous groups elsewhere in the world, like North America and Australia, their identity, their land, their resources, their way of life is constantly at risk. So oral storytelling has always been the way to preserve their culture and traditions, especially in the face of forced assimilation. So we have lots of different storytellers that were consulted through the making of these books. We don't know all of their names because Qvigstad didn't always write down which person he got the story from, but we do know that there were hundreds of storytellers that contributed to these works. We also consulted By the Fire, originally a collection by Emil de Monthat, which is also translated by Barbara Sjoholm. And these stories follow the reindeer migrations, ogres, trolls, fantasy creatures, and honestly, there's a really cool mix of fairy tale and folklore. So there's kings and princesses, but there's also things like ghosts and hauntings, and then also creation stories and stories about the reindeer. So it's a really cool mix of storytelling traditions, which I really like. And I think it also is part of the reason why it's called Near and Far Worlds, just because it's the transition of the stories as the people went through different time periods. And so you see some more like church language and Christian language towards the end, and you see more folklore, you see more spirits in the beginning.
Wow, I do love a good mashup. And the more we kind of cover these stories, whether there's good, hard and fast definitions for what's a fairy tale and what's a folklore and myth, I've started to develop my own, and the idea of the kind of a focus on princesses and princes, and then also having a focus on trolls and the common folk, and then throw a random god in there or something, and you just kind of have that fun shenanigans of a mix. That sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah, and I think these types of stories from indigenous groups are so important also to understand the history, because you can kind of see where the language of oppression kind of changes, where the bad guys go from being trolls or for being spirits to being other people. So it's kind of interesting to see the history shown through folktales and fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
But, so after talking about all the heavy stuff, this story that I picked actually is a really fun one, and it's called The Lad Who Stole a Troll's Hat, a Bird, and a Horse and Married the Princess. And it was collected from Ole Anderson Samuelsberg in 1923. Sorry, it loosely follows the ATU type 328, The Boy Who Steals the Giant's Treasures. And you'll find lots of characters in this type, namely the Jack Spriggans of the world, the Jack and the Beanstalk stories. And the main things it needs to include are some kind of massive creature. So it could be a giant, a troll, an ogre. And usually a boy steals one of their treasures that is golden or gold in some way. So the golden eggs, a golden harp, in this case, a golden bird. And they usually end up tricking the giant or the giant creature and winning in the end. I can't say that the lad is 100% the cleverest character we've ever seen, but he gets the job done.
There's some other characteristics it shares with the Jack Spriggans story.
Yes.
That the characters might not be as the most effective.
Well, he is technically effective because he gets the job done. I just don't know if we should be thinking too hard about his decision-making skills. And he's not detestable, at least. Like, a bit weird, yes.
That's some...
Question his decision-making, yes. But I would pretend like he is a character in a D&D campaign who hasn't fully read his character sheet and who doesn't fully understand his powers or his magic items.
Also, I do love a story with a long name, and I think this might be one of the longest names we've had so far.
Oh, I love a long name story that describes what's going to happen, because it's like, there it is, that's the story.
It is fun, but then when I have to search up stuff, I'm like, gosh, where is the boy who would have his eyes opened or something like that? It's like, that's so many words to type up. But they always seem to have a fun tale to go along with them, so I'm excited.
They do, because it's not about the ending. We know the ending. We know he's going to steal the troll's hat, a bird, a horse, and he's going to marry the princess. The story now is how. How is he going to do these things?
Mm-hmm.
So, travelers, today is very hot, and so we have a fun story for you. It's all about how you can turn berries into a crown by not following instructions and having dubious magic items. So, get ready to make some questionable decisions with us and steal some treasure. There once was a poor boy who lived with his mother. He often spent his time hunting for berries, and that was usually their only meal for the day. One day, he was gathering berries between tussocks when a door opened and some voices called out to him. He didn't see them at first, but then they asked if he was the one who stomps all over their rooftops and makes noise every single day. The boy apologized and said he was just picking berries. Now, the text only refers to them as they and once as people, but otherwise it is quite vague, so they could be some type of spirit, fairy, elf, or maybe a Nissa creature. Whatever they are, they considered his words and then asked him to pick some berries for them as well, since he was so skilled. They offered to pay him in exchange, and the young boy went hurrying home to tell his mother. He was going to work through the night if he had to. So the poor boy picked berries, and they were very pleased with him. They invited him to stay, and so he did. The next day, he asked why they didn't just pick any of the berries themselves since they were right outside their door, and they said they might be seen if they did. Then it was evening, and the boy settled in for another night. Those who had been there went off, and only an old woman stayed with him. The lad was looking around the fire when he spotted an old hat in the corner. The old woman claimed it had belonged to her son and was the type of hat to transport you with a wish. When the others returned, he was invited to stay the night, but this time the boy wondered if his mother had started to miss him. So they told him that he'll have to see her, and they went off again.
Wow. A protagonist that remembered they had a parent and then was like, maybe I should go check on them. That's actually huge.
Well, I think so don't say that so quickly, because he was trying to figure out how to steal the hat. And so he was hoping they would all leave and then he could steal the hat once they left. But I mean, he did think about his mother. I mean, he picked berries all day to feed her, so he still was technically a good son.
I mean, there you go. It's just, I really assumed the moment they mentioned the mother that I'm like, oh, that character's never getting mentioned again. So the fact they acknowledged her a second time.
At least he has a mom. He doesn't have a dad, I don't think, but usually when you're only allowed one parent, the mom is the sacrificial one, right? So thankfully, he has a mom, and he seems to treat her well. So when they were gone, he popped the hat on and wished he was home. Suddenly, the lad was transported to his house. Next, he thought he might try going to the king's castle. And when he arrived, no one knew what to make of the weird boy. But there were other things to consider and other things at hand, so they paid him no attention. You see, this king had a beautiful daughter, and many wanted to marry her. So he set up a task. In the forest, there were lovely golden birds that sang beautifully, but they belonged to the trolls. Whomever dared bring a bird back for the king would marry his daughter and become the next king. When the boy overheard this, he wondered if he should go and take a look at these magic birds. Also, this boy's logic is, as I said, entirely based on vibes. He has a hat and no plans. And so he's like, I guess I'll go check that out. The boy and the story has the vibes of someone who has like ADD, and they were just kind of doing stream of conscious, and like, and then this happened, and then I thought of this, and then I saw this in the corner of my eye. Like, that's no shade. It's already fun and wild, but like, this is the pacing of vibes that I'm getting. It's just him being like, I'm gonna go do this and this. Oh, that sounds fun. I'll go do that. Why'd I come to this castle in the first place? Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. He might have had a really good reason going to that castle, but he just immediately forgot once he got there and was just trying to figure it out.
He was like, well, that sounds fun. I'll go do that. And so he does. He goes to the forest, and lucky for him, the trolls' houses are there, but the trolls are away. Instead, he finds another old woman in the house and asks after the birds. She tells him where they are, and he found the birds quite quickly. They shone like gold, and next to them, there were glowing horses to boot. However, he didn't want to risk taking them, and so he went back to the castle. Except when he got there, he thought about it, and he decided to go back to the trolls. We're really glad this magic hat doesn't have a limit, because he would use it up just going back and forth.
Yeah, can you imagine? Oh my gosh. That sounds like the worst to have if you have to have a magic item with limited like uses, transportation magic has to be the worst for that, because you need to be able to get back to
wherever you need to go. Yeah. This time, he asked the old woman when the trolls were coming back, and she told him. Then he told her he really wanted to take a bird, and she advised him to take the ugliest one and never look back. So he took the ugliest bird and returned to the castle. Except he wasn't done yet. He left the bird there and then returned to the forest and asked again when the trolls were returning. She told him once again, and this time he told her that he really wanted to take a horse with him. She advised him to take the ugliest horse and not turn back. He considered it, but chickened out at the last moment and returned to the castle.
So glad we had that side quest.
Yes. When he returned to the castle, he found that the clerks had found his bird and told the king that they were the ones who fetched it. It was a particularly ugly bird, and it refused to sing, so without its song, it was pretty useless to look at. But when the lad appeared, again, out of nowhere, the bird shone and began singing beautifully. This is when the boy decided he's going to go back. This time, when he landed in the middle of the troll houses, he realized they were fully occupied by the trolls. The trolls were raging and storming around, and when they saw him, they asked him if he had seen anyone traveling past him with a bird. He said he did. They asked if the bird was singing, and the boy said it wasn't, but he had seen the traveler quite far away. The trolls did not care. They set off at once in the direction he pointed to rip out the guts of the thief, and so the boy was left with the old woman again, who was probably not only confused why this boy never followed her instructions, but also simultaneously why he kept coming back. Either way, she didn't snitch on him and just told him to take the ugliest horse and please, this time, don't turn back.
I mean, it's worked out for him so far.
Yeah, I mean, he gets back and the trolls ask him for directions instead of immediately ripping his head off.
Right? Like, the thief returned to the scene of the crime. They should have just been done with him at that moment.
They should have, but I don't think they knew it was him. They just thought, oh, he's come from that direction. Maybe he's seen our bird.
Very convenient.
Mm-hmm. So he chose the ugliest horse, and he chose to ride it all the way back. And at one point, he thought the trolls were after him, so he kept riding hard into the night. Then, when he arrived outside the forest and saw the sun shining, only then did he actually use his magic hat to wish himself back to the castle, which he could apparently do the entire time. I guess this hat has magic rules that are only known to this one man. As soon as he appeared in the castle, the bird began singing and shone brightly. The princess, who was sitting next to the bird, started at his appearance. She told him that she had been watching him and the bird seemed to only sing when he appeared. Also, how did he keep magically appearing and disappearing in her castle? The lad said that he was the one who brought the bird, so he was the one who should be her husband. Then the princess and the lad went to the king, and he showed the king the horse and the bird, and thus the poor lad and the princess were married. And that is the story of the lad who stole a troll's hat, a bird, a horse, and married a princess.
So the lesson, the takeaway here is if you too want to be a king, you just need to find a magic hat that transports you anywhere you want to go. And that's pretty much it.
But you also have to time it so that you end up in the castle of a king who sets off a task for suitors, and then you have to be able to go and do that task after chickening out a couple times. Oh, and you have to hope the trolls don't kill you.
Even if the trolls did try and kill him, you could just like teleport out of there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Although we still don't know the rules for this magic hat, so maybe it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of like Nightcrawler just going zoop, 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 zoop.
Yeah, but this is why in the beginning I said it's like a character in D&D who hasn't checked their magic item sheet. So they don't fully understand how their magic item works. So they only remember it sometimes.
Yeah.
And he's probably thinking as he's riding this horse, wow, I wish I had a magic hat to transport me back to the castle instead of riding all the way back. And he goes, oh, wait, I have one of those.
Wait a minute. I think I got that in the last quest.
Mm-hmm. Now,
that's very true vibes.
But the interesting thing is, it says the lad who stole a troll's hat. So it makes you think that the hat he stole from the people was also a troll's hat. Or the old woman was the mother of a troll. It's a little bit confusing. But I just thought it was a very interesting story.
Yeah, it is. It's very classic in a lot of ways, but it's also just the pace that it goes at is just wild.
Mm-hmm.
It makes for a very fun, like, jaunt of a story.
Yes, and honestly, there were so many stories to pick from in this book. There's the far world, the near world, and so you have all the far world stories seem to be a little bit more fantastical with like the kings and the princesses and the boys who do random things. The near world, you see lots of people who had like there are robberies, there are dead lovers and corpses and murders. You also have animal tales, so things like how lice were created. You have the fox and the goat kids, so you have animal tales in there. You have enemies. And these seem to be more about the Russians. So like Russian robbers or back then stories of these different groups coming into Sami land and basically doing weird things or like kidnapping or murdering. You have some mythology stories almost, like there are gods and there are goddesses. You have the church and the devil types of stories, which, probably later on. Lots of hidden folk stories, lots of creatures from the sea. So there's an entire range of stories in this collection. And so this is just one of so many. And honestly, the Omen and the Haunting ones, we're going to have to come back to this for Halloween because there's so many spooky stories here. And it's a mix of modern, like not modern, but like more recent ones and then more like older ones. So it'll be interesting to come back and see which ones we pick.
Yes, as much as we're not fans of spooky stuff, we do tend to find a lot of spooky stories and cover them. So we'll need to look at some more when we get to kind of spooky season. Thankfully, right now, we're still in the spring/summer season, so we're getting this lovely collection of like classic stories of princesses and princes and random trolls and wonderful crazy magic items. Yes. But yeah, I look forward to that as well.
And so with that, dear travelers, if you want to see show notes, blog posts, and more enchanted fun, then check out the website at www.talesfromenchantedforest.com. You can also find us on most social media sites like Instagram and Bluesky under the podcast name or @FromEnchanted. For any inquiries, comments, or suggestions, then email us at talesfromenchantedforest@gmail.com. And don't forget to rate us wherever you listen to your podcast episodes.
And remember, there's always a place for you in the Enchanted Forest.